to topic monitoring server performance. Let me quickly discuss about the agenda for today's session. First, we'll be discussing about the device availability. As you know, we have already seen how to add the devices into the monitoring tool. Now, let's discuss about how to monitor the availability of the devices, and then monitoring the key performance metrics on the servers, and the key performance metrics on virtual servers. And we'll discuss about how to create a custom WMI monitor. And you can also monitor a specific metric for which you do not find default performance metrics in Op Manager. So you can write your own script and upload that in Op Manager, associate that to the devices to monitor the specific parameter that you want to monitor for the specific devices. And troubleshooting tips on how to solve the problems when you lose communication with the devices or when the data collection stops for specific servers. And more importantly, we have a panelist team available. So during the course of training, you have any questions, so feel free to post it using the webinar chat panel, and our panelist team can. All right, so first, I would like to talk about the ports and protocols required by Op Manager to monitor the availability of the devices, to monitor the performance metrics, and also the interface metrics as well. To talk about the availability of the devices, so we use ICMP and TCP port check to monitor the availability of the devices. And when you add a device, we will monitor the availability, response time, and packet loss. And by default, we monitor this through ICMP. And as you see, the attention alarm will occur when a device misses 1 port, and trouble alarm will be raised for the devices that misses 3 ports, and a critical alarm will be triggered when the device misses 5 ports. So it can also monitor the devices through TCP port check. So if you have any critical devices that you need to monitor that through a TCP port check, you have an option to configure that. I'll show you the product in a while. And all interfaces, we monitor that through SNMP protocol. So you have to make sure that a moment, I have some trouble here. It's fine now. So let's go on. So, and also on the devices, we monitor the services through TCP or WMI, and processes through WMI, SNMP, SSH, or Telnet. And for file and folder monitoring, we support only for the Windows devices through WMI protocol. And also, you can monitor the URLs, the website's availability and response time. All right. So the first thing about monitoring the availability. As I said, when a device is added in your Op Manager tool, it starts monitoring the availability of the devices, the packet loss, and response time. So by default, it uses ICMP. So where do you require the TCP? In certain scenarios where your critical servers are in the demilitary zone and where the ICMP is restricted. So in that case, you can always have Op Manager to configure to monitor the availability of the devices through TCP port check. Let me quickly show you from the product. So let me pick this device, for example. You go to, just a moment. So if you select this list icon and edit device details, at the bottom, you will see monitored via ICMP. So if you feel that this device is in the demilitary zone and you wanted to monitor the availability of the devices through TCP, you just change that, provide the number, and just save it so that from now on, the device will be monitored through the TCP protocol. All right. Let's see what we have next. Configuring threshold for packet loss and response time. So if you are monitoring the device, I would say this is not required. So because you will receive the response time for the devices in milliseconds, where you do not need to monitor the devices for packet loss or response time, where it will always be 100%, and the packet loss will be 0%. So in which cases this configured for devices are required to monitor the device availability. Say you wanted to monitor your firewall across a WAN link. So in that case, you need to monitor the response time. If it is going to take, the response time is higher, then it's going to be a trouble. And if there is a packet loss, then there is going to be a trouble. So you have to make sure that the response time and packet loss thresholds are configured. And you can configure this through the settings that are available here. You see the edit icon here, available for packet loss and response time. So it can be, the thresholds can be triggered in multiple levels. So for attention level 1, and for trouble level 3, and level 5, a critical alarm. So you can configure the threshold value accordingly so that you are notified about the problem at various levels. Similarly, you can do this for response time as well. All right. And next, configuring uplink dependency. Say you have a core switch on when the core switch goes down, and in Op Manager, if you haven't configured the uplink dependency, you're going to see 51 alarms, so including the 50 servers and including the core switch. You will see 51 alarms when the core switch goes down. So to avoid that, we recommend you to configure the uplink dependency, so that when an uplink dependency is configured, and whenever the device goes down, and you will see only one alarm saying that the core switch is down. So if you go to the device snapshot page and edit the device details, and you have an option to configure the uplink dependency. So you can just select the map the parent device to this particular server, so that when the parent device goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm only for the parent device. So you can also do this in a bulk under the quick configuration wizard. You go to settings, configuration, and quick configuration wizard, and device dependencies. Here is where you will select. So if you have a core switch, select that. And here you have an option to assign this as a parent device to category wise. You want to associate this to all servers, you can do it. Or you wanted to associate this to a specific business view group, you can do this. Or you want to manually group the devices, you can simply select the devices, move it to the right side box and click associate. So now this device, the HP switch, will be associated as the parent device to these three devices, and you click on the associate button. All right, and configuring monitoring interval for the devices. See, by default, the devices will have the monitoring interval configured. So this device, the polling interval is 5 minutes, and it depends upon the criticality of the severity of the servers. The monitoring interval, the polling interval will be updated. So for routers, it is 5 minutes. Maybe for servers, it is 10 minutes, or for desktops, it is 30 minutes. And you can always go and update the monitoring interval for the critical devices. Say the minimum would be 1 minute, and you wanted to configure this, just edit the device details and configure the monitoring interval to your requirement. The minimum would be 1 minute. And you wanted to do this in a bulk, you go to settings and configuration, monitoring intervals. And here, based on the category, for servers, you wanted to see only 5 minutes, set the polling interval as 5 minutes, you can set this according to your. All right, so we'll move on to the next. And so now we know how to monitor the availability of the devices. And when you get into the availability statistics chart, you're wondering why it shows various colors. And here it is. So as you know, for clear, it is up. For down, it is red. And for on maintenance, if you're wondering what is on maintenance, if you put the devices on a schedule, on a downtime schedule, say in between on a maintenance period, the devices should not be monitored. You can put this on a schedule. So those devices will be, at those period, the graph will be shown as gray. And some point of time, you will put the devices on hold. Say you wanted to change the hardware, which will take 20 or 30 minutes of time, and you wanted to put the devices on hold for a while, and those status will be shown as the pink color, and the dependent unavailable. As I showed you, the parent device goes down, and then the availability chart will be marked as dependent unavailable. And whenever the op manager server itself is down for a while, and those time the devices will be marked as not monitored. And on the right hand side, you see the outage history. So whenever the device goes down, it's going to mark when the devices are going down from and to, and in between, you're doing some maintenance task, you're changing some hardware, you wanted to mark the reason, so you can edit and change the reason for the respective downtime period, so that the other administrators, whenever they log in and see the devices are down, they might know the reason, saying for this purpose, for which purpose the devices were down for the so and so period. All right. So next, monitoring services. So when you go to when you add any service, any servers, you can monitor the services on the devices. So you can monitor the TCP service. Say you wanted to monitor any particular service, you just give a name for the service and add the port number, and then you can monitor the services. So it monitors the TCP port check, and also it does monitor the Windows services. Let me quickly show you from the product. So go to inventory. Let me drill this down to a Windows server. And on the device snapshot page, you go to monitors. And you see service monitors. So this is where the TCP service can be monitored. You just need to provide a name and the port number. And from then, it will do a TCP port check and monitor the services through TCP port. Similarly, for Windows services, so you can monitor all the Windows through services through the WMI script. So all you need to do is simply add the monitors. So it is going to list all the services, and it's going to say the status of the devices, whether it is started or stopped, and whichever the monitor that you wish to monitor from this particular server. So you wanted to monitor the status of application experience, application host helper, you can select and add it. So from this point of time, the server will be monitored for these services. And for monitoring the services and the devices, whenever it goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm for you. So you don't need to do any configuration. As long as you're monitoring the devices for availability and service availability, whenever it is stopped or whenever it is not available, Op Manager is going to trigger an alarm for you. So you go to device and you wanted to see the alarms. So you see all the recent alarms are listed here. And you go to alarms page. It's going to show you the list of alarms that are not available. The services or any kind of alarms will be available in this page. And next, let's talk about the processes. So you can also monitor the processes up down status for that is running on the devices. So let me quickly show you that from the product as well. So similarly, on the monitor page, you have process. And you wanted to add a process monitor. It's going to list all the processes. So you wanted to add any one critical processes, you can add and monitor. And once when you associate it, it lets you update the threshold for the specific process. Say I wanted to configure the threshold for the process that takes the CPU and memory and the instance count. I can update the threshold for it. So whenever it deviates from the configured threshold value, it is going to trigger an alarm for the respective process. And as I said, for similar to the services, whenever the process goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm automatically, and you don't need to define anything for that. The next, process template. So let me show that from the monitoring and processes. So here you can create a template. So you wanted to discover processes from this particular device, select the respective WMI, the CLI or WMI or SNMP credentials, and then just click on next. So this will browse and select the fetch all the processes available in that particular device, and then you can add that as a template. So from here you have an option to associate the respective processes to more devices in one time. Say I wanted to associate this MS SQL process to a group of devices. I can come to process template page and select the devices, move to the right hand side box and click associate. So in just one click, and I'm associating the MS SQL process to a large group of devices. All right, and if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the webinar. All right, so let's move on to the next section, monitoring server performance. Let's say you get a call one day wherein you were asked to troubleshoot the performance slowness on a critical server. The server is really high resource intensive, so it is very critical to monitor the server performance. And let's see what are all the performance metrics, the key performance metrics that you have to monitor from the devices. So you need to know the disk usage. So you have to monitor the free disk space, used disk space, disk utilization, disk speed per second, and disk queue length. All this will give you in-depth insight on the disk usage. And also, you have to monitor the CPU utilization. You need to know what is the CPU utilization when the server is performing good, or what is the CPU utilization when the server is performing bad. And if you see the trend of CPU and memory utilization growing, and then you need to correlate this with the workload activity so that you can come to a conclusion whether you need to add more hardware according to the workload, and you need to fix that problem accordingly. And also you need to monitor the memory utilization, pages per second for falls, reads, and writes, and the top processes by memory usage. Let me quickly jump to the product, show you from the page. See, when the devices are added, it will start monitoring the performance metrics available in the device template. So this particular device is Windows 2012 R2. So let me go to the template and show you how the default templates are associated. So Windows 2012 R2. So this is the template for Windows 2012 R2. And if you see, there are some of the default performance metrics associated to the template. So it is WMI and SNMP performance metrics associated to it. So whenever Op Manager identifies a device, a Windows 2012 R2 device, so this is the OID. So using this object ID, Op Manager defines whether it is a Windows 2012 R2 device or not, and then it associates the model as 2012 R2, the vendor as Microsoft, and this category as server, and then it adds all the performance metrics that you have that is available in the template. You wanted to add more monitor to it, you can simply click on add monitor, and you can add from the list available here. All right, so let me close this. And let's see, you have the default monitors available here. So these are the monitors that gets associated to the device automatically when the device gets added to the tool. Let me go to the device again. And this is the device snapshot page. And you see the memory, the disk utilization, the partition device details, everything is getting monitored. And you wanted to see the graph view of it. So this is the monitors page that lists everything. And you wanted to see the graph view, you can simply click on the graph view. So it's going to give you the graph view for each and every monitors associated to the device. Next, health report. So the next thing after adding the devices and monitoring the availability and performance metrics, you can see all this as a reports in Op Manager. I'll quickly jump to the product and show you. So you go to reports and then the health and performance report, the server's health report. You see the top devices, the top 10 devices for CPU utilization, memory utilization, packet loss, availability, response time, and disk utilization. And similarly, you can also pull out the report for availability and response. And you wanted to know the disk forecast by usage, you can pull out the report as well. So it is going to give you the stats of the used percentage and when it will reach 80% or 90%. It will give you the date here. Right now, there's no data for that available. There's no growth. So showing that as no growth available. And it will give you the forecast saying that at so and so date, this will reach 90% or 80% or 100%. So the administrator can plan for the disk upgrade accordingly. All right, so the next is VMware. And we have the virtualization support for VMware, Hyper-V, and Zen server monitoring. And all this are monitored through for example, the VMware. It monitors the performance through the native API, and you have various key performance metrics for CPU ready time, wait time, the memory balloon, and so on. And it also monitors the hardware metrics like sensor, power, and temperature. And all this uses the VMware API monitor to VMware API protocol to monitor it. And the supported vendors for the hardware metrics are Dell and HP. And the VMware events, before, let me quickly show you. You go to dashboard, and you have a separate dashboard available for virtualization. So you get to know how many ESX hosts available, how many vCenter available, along with the data. Go to virtualization and pick one device, for example, the vCenter. So if you go to the vCenter snapshot page, it's going to give you the data of the total data centers available in that device, total clusters, total number of hosts, and total number of VMs. And you go to virtual details. And from there, you can actually drill down to the respective host. So let me drill down to this OPM ESX6. So from here, you can know what is the CPU condition of this particular host and so on. And under the virtual details, you get to know how many number of VMs associated to this particular host. And you click on monitors. So that gives you the information about the virtual performance metrics available for this particular host, and whatever the protocol that you see, VI web service, it is the API performance metric. And whichever that you see on SNMP or CLI, that is specific to the servers. So I can also drill down to the VMs from here. So let me drill down to OPM Win7. And under the virtual details, you see the VM performance metrics available. All right. And we'll talk about the VMware events. So not only Op Manager monitors the VMware devices, it also monitors the events available on the virtual environment. So sometimes a vMotion happens, the guest VM will move from one host to another, or there is a disconnection in the host, or the VM's connection or the powered on, powered off status. You can also get notified about the VMs that are off and when a schedule is removed from the respective guest VMs. So let me quickly show you the VMware events available. So these are all the default VMware events available in Op Manager, and you wanted to add more events, you can just simply click on add and select the respective host and just click on. So now, just a moment. You see, there are total of 421 events available. So from here, you can just scroll down to show. I'm just listing 100 pages. So the ones that are already listed are selected here. You wanted to add more, just select the respective event for which you wanted to see that as an alarm in Off Manager whenever the event occurs, and simply add it. So this gets added to the list, and you want to associate that to the respective devices. Just select the respective thing and get that associated to the available devices. Let's say I want to associate the newly added device to OPM K12. Just click on associate, and this gets added to the respective events. And next, all these are captured as reports as well, and you can identify the reports based on the underutilized, over-proficient resources. Let me quickly show you that from report. Go to reports. This is a separate report available for virtual server reports. Wanted to know the data store versus VMware mapping. Pull out the report for that. Or you want to know the host versus disk mapping. You can pull out the report based on that, so you can understand the capacity and the free space. Or you wanted to create a new virtual report, just provide a name. Click on next, select the respective vendor and the host, whether it is a host or virtual machine, and you wanted to select this for memory and all the devices, and you can define whether you want to pull out this report for this week or last week. Just create it, and it is that simple to create your own report for the virtual devices. And also, when a vCenter device is added or a host is added, you will see the map available for the respective devices. Let me show a map for the VMware. So you know how the devices are interconnected with each other in the virtual environment. And you have an option to select whether you want to see the host to VM mapping or host to network or host to data store or VM to data store. So right now, the host to data store and VM to data store were unselected. So I want to see that data as well. I'm just selecting and apply to it. I can also resize this so that I can see this, a clear view of how my virtual devices are connected with each other. All right, so that is about virtual servers. And you can also monitor the applications. For example, the MS SQL application, the MS Exchange application, and Active Directory applications. So there are specific key performance metrics available for the application related to SQL or Exchange or Active Directory, and you can actually monitor that in Op Manager. Whenever a SQL or Exchange or Active Directory devices are added, it will automatically identify that device, and it starts monitoring the application performance metrics that is available that you see on this list. And you have this for SQL and Exchange related to the version. And all the thresholds, all the threshold value that you see here configured or based on the Microsoft best practices. And this may not be applicable to all the environment. And if your environment is too heavy or according to your environment, you have an option to change the monitoring interval to specific metrics. So you wanted to change this for Exchange 2010. You can change this from the application template available here. And you're wondering what is apply configuration, save configuration. So whatever the changes that you do, you can apply that. Select and apply that change. Okay, I don't have. can apply that to the available devices and save it, so that already discovered devices, whatever the changes that you have done will be applied to the already discovered devices. And you wanted to change all the configurations here, all the thresholds that you have added here. You want to modify the thresholds for the respective metrics and save the configuration. So this will only update the templates changes. It will not apply to the changes to the already discovered devices. But when you add a new Active Directory server, and whatever the changes that you have made will be applied to the newly added servers. And for the already added service, you need to modify and make sure that it is applied. You click on Apply Configuration Change and select the respective devices. Next, WMI custom WMI monitors. Say from the template I had shown you before that you pick the Windows 2012 R2, for example, again. As I said, you have the default templates available here, and so apart from that, you can also add the monitors that are available in the list. And let's say you have you do not find the respective monitors for which you wanted to add a monitor from the available list, and you always have an option to add a custom WMI monitor as well. Just select the respective device, set the monitoring interval, click next. So now this will fetch all the WMI classes available from this particular device. So once it fetches the WMI classes, it's going to list that in the drop-down available here. Say I wanted to add some of the monitors related to net security, then I just select that, and it is going to list all the performance counters related to security. And I wanted to add the link time checks, I can add it. I can select that, and from the right side box, it is going to list all the instances related to the security, and I can add that and click save, so that the newly discovered monitor, the performance metric for the link time checks will be added to the monitor. That is how you add a custom WMI monitor. And the one more point about adding a custom template is, let's say you have added a custom WMI monitor. Let's say I've added a system uptime right now, and I wanted this information to be displayed on the device snapshot page. I simply select show dial from the template and save it, so that when I go to the respective device, it will display the information for system uptime on the dials. See, previously we did not see this information for this device. I wanted to see this on the device snapshot page. I can control this from the device template. Script monitoring, as I said before, for any performance metrics for which you cannot find the WMI classes, or you cannot find default performance metric through SNMP or WMI, you can write your own script, and any script language that runs on a shell or prompt is supported. And you can write a VB script or PowerShell script or Perl script, shell script, or Python script, and get that added to the product and get it associated with the respective devices. And you have all the scripts that's shared by our customers posted on our community page, and you can access this link to download one. And you wanted to use one available from our website, you can try to use that as well. It's going to be a simple download, and it's an XML file, and you can import it in the product. Let me show you how you can do that. Go to settings and monitoring. This is where you have script templates, and you wanted to add your own template. Just hit on add, write the name, description, and you just copy and paste the script body here and set the thresholds and save it. And finally, once the script is ready, just associate that script to the devices that you wish. So for example, I wanted to associate the cache memory script to this particular device. Just simply associate it. And then when I go to the device snapshot page, I will see that this particular script is associated to the device. And I wanted to execute this. I can simply, so this is the export. So I wanted to export a template and upload this on a different site. I can do that. Or I wanted to import one. So this is how the format will be available if you're downloading it from our website, for which the users have already tried certain things. For example, we have templates available for monitoring a certificate expiry, the SSL certificate expiry. And if you're downloading that, it will be in XML format. You just click on import and browse and select that respective file. So that goes into the product, and all that you need to do is simply associate that to the respective devices. And then you can also monitor the URL availability for both intranet and internet web applications. You can configure the threshold for URL response time so that when the response time deviates from the configured threshold value, you'll be alerted. You can also configure a match content so that when somebody tries to hack the website, they'll try to log in and change the content. When you see that the respective content is not getting matched, and you can understand that there's something wrong with the website. I'll quickly show you from the product. You go to URLs, and this is where you will add a new URL to monitor from the respective devices. Just provide the URL name, the URL address, the monitoring interval, and you wanted to check for specific match content. You can provide that. For example, if I'm trying to add monitor the manageengine.com website, I'm looking for manage engine text, and I can select whether it is going to use the form method or whether it's going to use the form method as post or get, and the cookies, whether it is accepting all or rejecting all. And if it requires any authorization, I can provide the authorization as well. And I can also associate a notification profile so that whenever this particular URL goes down, I will see that as a notification in my email box as well. Configuring proxy details for URLs behind proxy. Say some of your URLs configured proxy and you wanted to monitor the availability of those URLs, then you have to make sure that you configure the proxy server settings, basic settings, and proxy server settings. Here is where you will have to enable the proxy and provide the proxy server details along with the credentials. And if you wanted to exclude the proxy for certain devices like localhost, or for certain devices which is not using a proxy, you can just add the IP address of or the device name with a comma separated value here. All right, and also as I said, for Windows devices, using Op Manager can monitor the file and folders as well. So you can monitor the availability of the files and folders. You can configure thresholds for the folder size and get notified whenever the size is exceeded, and configure the filters based on file extensions. Monitor only the required files, and configure the thresholds for file size, file age, and count, and so that you're notified whenever somebody tries to modify the file or remove the folder or updating the file content. You're monitoring. You can add templates for files and folders as well. So you can monitor the folder existence, the folder size, and you wanted to be notified whenever the folder size grows beyond so-and-so byte or so-and-so GB or MB. You configure that as well. And when somebody modifies the folder, you want to get notified, you can also select the notification accordingly. Similarly, you can monitor this for file as well. So you just mentioned the file path. So you can monitor the file existence, file contains, file size, file age, and file modification as well. And with that, we are coming to the last part of the presentation, and where I'm going to give you some troubleshooting tips. Let's say you're monitoring a server, and when you configure, after you're configuring a threshold, and you see an error saying that access is denied. So what do you actually need to do at that time? Or sometimes it says RPC server is unavailable, and what do you need to do at that time? So it's simple. You just need to go to run and check for the WBM test, which is the Windows Management Instrumentation Tester. So you just click on connect, and here you have to mention the server name with a backslash, and provide the same credentials used for in Op Manager for this particular device. Let's say, so this is a local device, so I can just directly hit on connect. And let's say I wanted to query certain thing. So you have to know the exact WMI class name so that you can look in for that. And it is going to fetch the information related to CPU. And here, if I click on show MOF, it is going to bring in all the information related to the Win32 processor. So during this time, if you hit on connect and you see any error, it means that the communication is not happening between the Op Manager server and the monitored server. So you have to make sure that the respective credential has the proper access to the device so that you can monitor the respective WMI monitor. So as I said, sometimes the password might be wrong or the credentials are not associated. So you have to make sure that the right credential is associated, and you have to use the same WMI account used in Op Manager. And if any WMI ports are blocked by firewall, you have to make sure that it is removed. So this is how you can troubleshoot the WMI monitor that is not collecting data. So with that, I'm coming to the end of this presentation, and you have any questions, feel free to post it. And we have received a lot of questions from other users, and we have validated some of the top questions, and which is going to be presented by one of our technical expert, Sanjeev. So I'm just going to refresh the presentation. It's going to take some while. All right, so we're almost there.